Welcome back to the Raven Files. Tonight we continue the dark mystery of the Corpse-Nourishing Land. In Part 1, Shen Yao escaped the ancient tomb beneath a sealed construction site in Xi'an. She survived by following 3 rules, but survival did not mean freedom. A new mark has appeared. A faceless child is waiting. And the 4th rule has begun. So turn down the lights, stay close to the shadows. And remember, do not look at the child. Shen Yao did not go home that night. By the time the police pulled her out of the sealed construction site, the eastern edge of Xi'an had already begun to pale with morning light. The sky above the unfinished high-rise was grey and cold. Floodlights still burned over the deep foundation pit. Police tape snapped in the wind. Excavators stood frozen in the dust like dead animals that had dug too deep and found something that should have remained buried. No one spoke loudly anymore. Even the rescue workers lowered their voices when they passed the pit. The place had been a normal construction site 2 days ago. Men had smoked cigarettes beside the machines. Drivers had shouted across the muddy ground. Engineers had argued over measurements, delays, concrete costs, and safety reports. Now the entire site felt like a grave pretending to be a building project. Shen Yao sat in the back of an ambulance with a blanket around her shoulders. Dust covered her hair, her clothes, her lips, and the cracks beneath her nails. Someone had placed a cup of warm water in her hands, but she had not drunk from it. She kept staring at the black entrance below the pit where the emergency team had blocked the collapsed tunnel with steel panels. That tunnel led to the chamber. The stone walls, the dry corpses, the black coffin, and the rules. Do not speak your full name. Do not answer when the dead call. Do not take anything from the tomb. She had followed them. At least she had believed she had. A paramedic shone a light into her eyes. "Miss Shen, can you hear me?" Shen Yao blinked. The paramedic repeated the question. "You are safe now. Do you know where you are?" Shen Yao looked past him toward the construction fence. Beyond it, at the edge of the dark road, something small stood beneath a broken street lamp. A child, no taller than a 7-year-old, grey clothes, bare feet, head tilted slightly to the left, and where its face should have been there was only a flat darkness. Shen Yao's heart stopped. She closed her eyes immediately. The paramedic frowned. "Miss Shen, don't look," she whispered. "What, don't look at the child?" The paramedic turned his head. Shen Yao grabbed his sleeve so hard that her fingers twisted the fabric. "Don't." The paramedic froze. For 1 second, neither of them moved. Then a police officer called from nearby, and the paramedic turned away from the road. When Shen Yao opened her eyes again, the child was gone. But the place beneath the street lamp looked darker than the rest of the morning, as if the shadow had stayed behind. They took her to the police station before they took her to the hospital. That was the first thing that told Shen Yao the official story was already being built. If they thought she was only injured, they would have taken her directly to emergency care. Instead, 2 officers drove her to a small district station not far from the construction site. They led her into an interview room with pale walls, a metal table, 2 chairs, 1 camera in the corner, and a clock that had stopped at 3:17. Shen Yao noticed the clock immediately. The black coffin underground had opened at 3:17. She did not tell them that. A young female officer entered the room with a folder under one arm. She had short black hair, tired eyes, and a small scar near her left eyebrow. Her badge read Han Ruai. She placed the folder on the table and sat down across from Shen Yao. "My name is Officer Han Rui," she said. "I just need to ask you a few questions." Shen Yao looked at her badge. "Don't say your full name here." Officer Han paused. "What?" "Not if you went near the site." The officer studied her for a moment, then slowly closed the folder. Why Shen Yao's fingers tightened around the blanket. "Because if the dead hear it, they can call you back." Silence filled the room. Officer Han did not laugh. That made Shen Yao look at her more carefully. Most people would have laughed, frowned, or written the sentence down as proof of shock. Officer Han only watched her with a quiet, guarded expression. "You said something like that when they found you," Officer Han said. "You kept repeating 3 rules." Shen Yao stared at the stopped clock. "Because the rules kept me alive." "What rules?" Shen Yao swallowed. "The first rule, do not speak your full name." Officer Han picked up a pen but did not write. "The second rule, do not answer when the dead call." She paused. "The third rule, do not take anything from the tomb." Officer Han's hand tightened slightly around the pen. Shen Yao noticed. "You know something." Officer Han did not answer. Outside the interview room, phones rang. Someone coughed. A chair scraped across the floor. Normal sounds, living sounds. But beneath them, Shen Yao thought she heard something else. A faint tapping, like small fingers on glass. Officer Han opened the folder. "According to the site records, you were hired as a temporary documentation assistant for the archaeological assessment team. I was hired to photograph fragments and catalogue small finds. You were not supposed to enter the lower chamber. No one was supposed to enter it. But you did." The ground collapsed. With site supervisor Zhao Ming and 3 workers. Shen Yao closed her eyes. She saw Zhao Ming again. His flashlight shaking. His mouth opening when someone called him from inside the black coffin. His face softening with recognition, his voice answering before anyone could stop him. "Yes," she whispered. "Where are they now?" Shen Yao opened her eyes. "Below." "Alive," Number Officer Han wrote 1 word. "Missing." Shen Yao gave a weak, bitter smile. "You don't believe me. I didn't say that. You wrote missing because that is what I can prove." The tapping sound came again, closer now. Tap, tap, tap. Officer Han lifted her head. "You hear that Shen Yao's body went cold." The tapping was coming from the interview room mirror, the large rectangular mirror on the wall, the kind suspects knew was probably one-way glass. Officer Han stood. Shen Yao grabbed her wrist. "Do not look at reflections." Officer Han looked back at her. "What did you say?" Shen Yao's voice became thin. "Anything that reflects can become a door." Tap, tap, tap. Something small struck the other side of the mirror. Officer Han turned toward it. The glass remained dark. For one moment, Shen Yao saw only the room reflected back at them. The table. The stopped clock. Officer Han. Herself. Then another shape appeared in the reflection. A small child stood behind Shen Yao's chair. Head tilted left. No face. Shen Yao slammed both hands over her eyes. Officer Han inhaled sharply. "You see it," Shen Yao whispered. No answer. The lights flickered. The room temperature dropped so quickly. that Shen Yao's breath fogged the air. Officer Han's voice trembled. "There's a child behind you." "No," Shen Yao whispered. "It is not behind me." "Then where is it?" In the reflection, a soft laugh came from the mirror. Not from the room, from the mirror. A child's laugh, light, playful, terrible. Then the cracked voice whispered, "Big sister." Shen Yao pressed her hands harder against her eyes. "Do not answer," she said. "Officer Han, do not answer it." The child whispered again, "Big sister." Officer Han backed away from the mirror. "Who are you?" The moment the words left her mouth, the mirror cracked. A single black line split the glass from top to bottom. Officer Han gasped and grabbed her right hand. Shen Yao lowered one hand just enough to look at the floor. Not the mirror, not the wall, only the floor. Officer Han stood near the table, bent over in pain. On the back of her right hand were 5 black fingerprints. Small, black, pressed deep beneath the skin, exactly like a child had grabbed her from the other side of the glass. Shen Yao's own phone vibrated on the table. It should have been dead. It had died underground. She remembered the last battery warning. She remembered the black screen. She remembered putting it into her pocket as the tunnel collapsed behind her. But now the cracked screen lit up by itself. No ringtone, no signal, no passcode. Only white letters on a black background. "Unknown number, you left the land." Shen Yao stared. Another line appeared. "But the land did not leave you." Officer Han looked at the phone, pale and breathing hard. "What is that?" The screen flickered. "The 4th rule has been added." A pause. "Then do not look at the child." The stopped clock on the wall began ticking. Once, twice, 3 times. Then all the lights in the police station went out. In the darkness, every phone outside the interview room began ringing at once. Dozens of tones, dozens of vibrations, dozens of screens lighting up through the glass door. Then voices answered them. Police officers, staff, people in the hallway. "Hello, who is this what yes speaking?" Each answer became a hook. One by one the voices outside changed. They became softer, older, farther away, as if everyone who answered had stepped into a tunnel. Officer Han grabbed Shen Yao and pulled her under the table. "Stay down." The hallway door opened by itself. A line of cold air crawled into the room. It smelled of wet soil. A child's bare feet appeared in the doorway. Shen Yao saw only the feet, small, pale, covered in mud. Officer Han saw them too and clamped one hand over her own mouth. The child stepped into the room. One step, another step. The floor beneath its feet darkened with soil. It walked around the table slowly. Shen Yao kept her eyes fixed on the ground. The child stopped beside her. A tiny hand touched the edge of the table. Then its voice whispered very close to her ear. "Everyone looks eventually." Shen Yao did not move. The child bent lower. "You looked once." Shen Yao shook her head. The child laughed. "A reflection is still a gaze." The words slid into her mind like ice. "A screen is still a mirror." The child's voice became softer. "A memory is still a door." Officer Han made a small sound of fear. The child turned toward her. "New witness." Officer Han squeezed her eyes shut. I did not see you. You asked who I was. I didn't know. Now you do. The lights came back. The child vanished. The hallway outside was silent. Not calm. Silent. As if the entire station had been holding its breath. Officer Han crawled out from under the table first. She checked the hallway, then stepped back quickly. Shen Yao followed her gaze. 3 officers stood in the corridor, motionless, each holding a phone to one ear. Their eyes were open, their faces were calm, too calm. Their mouths moved in perfect unison. We are listening. Officer Han slammed the interview room door shut. They left through the rear emergency exit 5 minutes later. Officer Han did not file a report. She did not call for backup. She did not speak until they were inside her car, parked 2 streets away from the station. Her right hand shook on the steering wheel. The 5 black fingerprints had not faded. You saw it before the sight, Shen Yao said. Officer Han kept her eyes on the road. No. But you knew something. My uncle was one of the first night guards assigned to the construction site after the ground collapsed. Shen Yao slowly turned toward her. What happened to him? He called my father at 2:48 a.m. and said there were children standing inside the foundation pit. Children. He said they were counting the workers. Officer Han swallowed. The next morning he was gone. His uniform was found folded on his bed. His boots were full of soil. Shen Yao felt the cold return to her chest. What was his name? Officer Han almost answered. Then she stopped. The first rule settled between them. Do not speak your full name. Officer Han took a breath. Guo. Just Uncle Guo. Shen Yao looked out the window. The city was waking up. People crossed streets. Buses opened their doors. Vendors lifted steamers full of breakfast buns. Office workers walked with coffee in one hand and phones in the other. Above ground, everything still belonged to the living, but Shen Yao could no longer trust the ground beneath them. Officer Han drove her to the hospital and told the doctors that Shen Yao had suffered shock and needed observation. She stayed long enough to make sure Shen Yao was admitted under a false note, then leaned close before leaving. Do not tell anyone else the rules unless they already know something, Officer Han whispered. Shen Yao looked at her marked hand. Why? Because after I heard the 4th rule, I saw it. Maybe rules protect people. Maybe they invite the thing closer. I don't know anymore. Shen Yao looked at Officer Han's hand. What will you do? I'm going to find my uncle's last message. He sent a voice recording before he disappeared. I deleted it because it scared me. Can you recover it? I know someone who can try. Officer Han opened the hospital room door. If I find anything, I'll come back. She paused, and Miss Shen Yao looked up. Officer Han's face was pale but steady. If you see me again and I call your name from somewhere dark, don't answer. Then she left. The hospital room was on the 6th floor. It had white walls, 1 narrow bed, 1 plastic chair, 1 window and a television mounted in the corner. Shen Yao immediately asked the nurse to cover the television. The nurse looked confused, but did it anyway. No mirrors, no uncovered water, no dark glass. Those words came to Shen Yao without knowing where she had learned them. Maybe from the child, maybe from the tomb, maybe from blood. At 1:13 p.m. her aunt arrived. Shen Lihua entered the room carrying a cloth bag and the face of someone who had spent the morning forcing herself not to panic. She was a thin woman in her late 50s, with short grey hair, sharp cheekbones, and eyes that had always seemed too practical to believe in ghosts. She had raised Shen Yao after Shen Yao's parents died. She had never allowed superstition in the house. No charms over doors. No incense for luck. No old village stories after dark. When Shen Yao was a child and said she heard someone whispering from the hallway, Shen Lihua always told her it was pipes wind or neighbors. Now Shen Lihua closed the hospital room door, saw the 5 black marks on Shen Yao's hand and sat down without speaking. That frightened Shen Yao more than any scream. "You know what this is," Shen Yao said. Shen Lihua took her hand gently. For a long time she only looked at the marks. Then she whispered, "Your grandfather had the same thing." Shen Yao's throat tightened. "Grandfather Shen Wenqing." Her aunt nodded. "He worked with an archaeological unit outside Xi'an when he was young. There had been a landslide after heavy rain. The local villagers said the earth had opened its mouth. They refused to go near it. The Corpse-Nourishing Land, Shen Yao said. Shen Lihua looked at her sharply. "Who told you that name? It was carved underground." Her aunt closed her eyes. When she opened them again, all the strength in her face seemed to have moved somewhere deeper. "Then it really is the same place. The construction site number. The construction site is new. The land is not." Shen Yao sat up slowly. "What does that mean?" Shen Lihua looked toward the covered television, then at the window, then at the metal water cup beside the bed. She turned the cup upside down. "Your grandfather said there are places beneath old cities where the dead are not buried to rest. They are arranged to feed the ground. Feed what he never said clearly, then say what he did say." Shen Lihua lowered her voice. "He said the bodies were roots. The coffin was a mouth. The child was a door." Shen Yao went cold. The child was a door. The same words she had heard from the phone. Her aunt opened the cloth bag and removed an old photograph. It showed Shen Yao's grandfather, Shen Wenqing, standing in a courtyard with a younger Shen Lihua, and a woman Shen Yao knew only through pictures. Her mother, Shen Mei. Shen Mei had long dark hair, soft eyes, and a shy smile. In the photograph she held a baby wrapped in a pale blanket. Shen Yao. But someone had scratched away part of the image near Shen Mei's right hand. Shen Yao touched the damaged paper. Why is her hand scratched out? Shen Lihua did not answer. Why? Her aunt folded the photograph again. "Because your mother was marked too." The room seemed to tilt. "You told me she died in a car accident." "She did. But that's not the whole truth." "No." Outside the hospital room, a child laughed. Both women went still. The sound came from the corridor. Light. Soft. Too close. Shen Lihua stood and moved to the door. Shen Yao grabbed her wrist. "Don't look." The laugh came again. Then a nurse knocked. "Miss Shen, time for your medication," Shen Lihua whispered. "Did you call for medicine?" Shen Yao shook her head. The door opened before either of them could answer. A young nurse stepped in carrying a metal tray. She smiled politely, but there was no medicine on the tray. Only wet soil. Dark soil piled neatly in the center. The nurse did not seem to notice. "Miss Shen," she said, "please take your medicine." Her voice changed on the final word. It became smaller, younger, a child speaking through an adult throat. "Please take your medicine." Shen Lihua grabbed the tray and threw it across the room. Soil scattered across the white floor. For 1 second, the nurse's eyes turned completely black. Then she blinked. Her face returned to normal. She looked around in confusion. What happened? Shen Lihua pulled Shen Yao from the bed. We're leaving. Shen Yao tore the IV needle from her arm. The heart monitor shrieked. The nurse shouted for help. But as Shen Yao and Shen Lihua ran into the hallway, every light above them flickered once. At the far end of the corridor, Officer Han Rui stood beside the elevator. Shen Yao almost called out to her. Then she saw Officer Han's right hand. The black fingerprints had spread to her wrist. Officer Han looked pale and sick, but she was alive. She held a folded piece of paper. I recovered my uncle's recording, she said quickly. Shen Lihua looked at her. Who is this? She saw the child, Shen Yao said. Officer Han handed Shen Yao the paper. I listened to the recording once. Then my phone filled with soil. I wrote down what I heard before it died. Shen Yao unfolded the paper. The handwriting was shaky. Uncle Guo's last recording. There are more people in the pit than the missing workers. They stand in circles. The little one is not a child. Do not look at the little one. The little one is the entrance. If the eye opens, the ground will remember the city. Find the heart before dawn. Below that, Officer Han had written one more line. He kept repeating a temple name, Nanshan Earth God Temple. Shen Lihua made a small sound. Shen Yao looked at her. You know it. Her aunt's lips trembled. Your mother went there before she died. The elevator doors opened behind Officer Han. Inside, the lights were off. A child's bare feet stood in the darkness. Officer Han saw Shen Yao's face change and understood at once. She did not look back. She stepped away from the elevator. The doors closed slowly. Just before they shut, a small hand pressed against the inside of the doors. 5 black fingerprints appeared on the metal, then vanished. Officer Han whispered, "Go." What about you? Shen Yao asked. I'll slow them down. You can't. Officer Han looked at her marked hand. I already answered once. Maybe I can still choose who hears me next. She turned and walked toward the nurse's station, pulling her police badge from her pocket. Shen Yao wanted to stop her, but Shen Lihua dragged her toward the stairwell. Behind them, Officer Han shouted at the hospital staff, "Evacuate this floor now." Then the fire alarm began screaming. Shen Yao and her aunt ran down 6 flights of stairs. On the 3rd floor, the lights went out. On the 2nd floor, someone above them began calling Shen Yao's name. Not her full name, only almost. Yao. Little Yao. Daughter. That last voice made her stumble. It was a woman's voice. Soft, tired, familiar from old home videos. Shen Mei, her mother. Shen Lihua slapped one hand over Shen Yao's mouth. Do not answer. Tears filled Shen Yao's eyes. The voice came again from the dark stairwell above. My daughter. Shen Yao shook in her aunt's arms. Shen Lihua pulled her down the stairs. They did not stop until they reached the street. By late afternoon, they were hiding in Shen Lihua's old apartment near the Muslim quarter. It was a narrow 4th-floor home above a closed herbal medicine shop. The wooden stairs creaked. The hallway smelled of dust, old cooking oil, and rainwater. Inside, the apartment was full of heavy furniture, yellowing books, dried orange peels, and family photographs turned face down. Shen Yao had not visited in years. As a child, she remembered the apartment as warm and crowded. Now it felt like a bunker. Shen Lihua locked the door, pushed a cabinet in front of it, and began covering every reflective surface. The television, the bathroom mirror, the dark glass cabinet, the framed photograph over the table, even the stainless steel kettle. No mirrors, she said. Shen Yao helped, though her hands were shaking. No clear water, Shen Lihua continued. No dark screens. No polished metal. If you see the child in anything close your eyes, if you hear your mother, do not answer. If you smell wet soil, leave the room. Shen Yao stopped. You knew all these rules. I knew fragments, and you never told me. I hoped you would never need them. That is not an answer. Shen Lihua opened a locked cabinet near the kitchen. From behind folded blankets and old tax papers, she removed a wooden box wrapped in faded red cloth. The cloth was covered in old ink writing. Shen Yao recognized some of the characters. Suppress, return, mouth, eye. Shen Lihua placed the box on the table. This belonged to Shen Wenqing. Shen Yao sat across from her. Inside were a thin notebook, 3 copper coins tied with red string, a rusted compass, several old photographs, and a smooth black stone, no larger than a thumb. The moment Shen Yao saw the stone, the 5 marks on her hand burned. That came from the tomb. No, Shen Lihua said. Your grandfather swore he took nothing. Then why did he have it? He said he found it inside his shoe after he escaped. The 3rd rule returned to Shen Yao. Do not take anything from the tomb, but what if the tomb put something on you? What if the land chose what you carried? Shen Lihua opened the notebook carefully. The pages were brittle, some burned at the corners, others stained with dark brown fingerprints. Shen Wenqing's handwriting was tight and uneven, as if he had written while trying not to fall asleep. Shen Yao read the 1st page. I came back with all 10 fingers, but I did not come back whole. The 2nd page had names. Most had been crossed out. Some were only surnames. Zhao, Guo, Liu, Chen. Shen Yao's eyes stopped on one name near the bottom. Shen Mei. Her mother. Her name had not been crossed out, it had been circled. Beside it, Shen Wenqing had written, Do not let Mei return with the child. Shen Yao's voice broke. What does this mean? Shen Lihua covered her mouth. Shen Yao slammed the notebook onto the table. What does it mean? Her aunt closed her eyes. After your grandfather died, strange things began happening again. Soil under your crib, tiny fingerprints on the window. Your mother heard a child laughing at night. I was a baby, yes. And she went to the temple. She found your grandfather's notebook. She thought she could end it before it reached you. Why would it reach me? Shen Lihua hesitated. The apartment light flickered. The covered television made a faint cracking sound beneath the blanket. Shen Yao lowered her voice. Tell me. Your grandfather survived because he made a promise. What promise I don't know. You do. Shen Lihua's face twisted with guilt. He promised the land that someone from his bloodline would return when the eye opened again. Shen Yao stared at her. He traded his descendants. He was young, terrified. The others were dying around him. He said yes to something in the dark and spent the rest of his life trying to undo it. Shen Yao looked down at her marked hand. And my mother. She tried to close the promise. How? She went to Nanshan Earth God Temple with you in her arms. The air left the room. With me, Shen Lihua nodded, tears sliding down her face now. She believed the land wanted you because you were the next bloodline. She went to bargain. When she returned 3 days later, you were alive. But she was marked. What happened to her? She kept saying the child followed her home. The covered television cracked again. This time the blanket shifted. Something pressed against the screen from underneath. A small hand. Shen Yao stepped back. Shen Lihua picked up the copper coins. The handprint under the blanket darkened. Then a child whispered from inside the television, "Grandfather lied." Shen Yao froze. The phone in her pocket vibrated. It had been cracked. Dead. Useless. Now it was whole again. The screen lit up. Unknown number, old bloodline detected. Then the woman who returned was not alone. Then the child remembers your crib. Shen Yao shook her head. No. The phone vibrated again. One door was closed. One child was left above. Shen Lihua whispered, "Don't read any more." But Shen Yao could not look away. Another message appeared. The fourth rule is not only about eyes. A pause. Then a reflection is still a gaze. A screen is still a mirror. A memory is still a door. The television blanket fell. The screen was black. In the dark reflection, Shen Yao saw the apartment behind her. The table, the notebook, her aunt, and her mother standing in the corner. Shen Mei wore a pale hospital gown stained with soil. Her hair hung wet around her face. Her right hand rested over her eyes as if she were hiding them. Shen Yao forgot to breathe. Her mother slowly lowered one finger. Shen Lihua screamed, "Close your eyes." Shen Yao shut them. Too late. She had not seen the eyes, but she had seen the memory. The apartment disappeared. She stood underground, not inside the chamber from the construction site, somewhere older, vaster, a place beneath places. Thousands of corpses sat in rings around a black coffin. Men, women, children, old people. Their heads bowed, their mouths stuffed with soil. Red strings ran from their wrists into the ground like roots. Above the coffin hung a single stone eye, closed. The faceless child stood beside it. Only now Shen Yao understood. The child was not guarding the coffin. The child was the handle. The door, the bait that made the living look. The child tilted its head. "Big sister, do you want to know why your mother died?" Shen Yao kept her eyes closed inside the vision. "No, you do. No, she looked for you." Shen Yao shook. The child walked around her slowly. "Your mother brought you to the heart. She placed you before the closed eye. She begged the land to take her instead." Shen Yao's tears fell. "She saved me. She delayed us." The child's voice became colder. "She closed one door and left another open." "What door, you?" The vision shifted. Shen Yao saw her mother kneeling in an abandoned temple at night. Rain poured through broken roof tiles. Mud covered the floor. A stone altar stood in the center, carved with the same 3 symbols from the tomb. A coffin, a child, an eye. Baby Shen Yao cried in her mother's arms. Shen Mei placed her bloody hand on the altar and whispered something Shen Yao could not hear. Then the faceless child appeared behind her, not walking, unfolding from the darkness. Shen Mei turned. She looked, and the mark passed into her hand like black fire. The vision broke. Shen Yao woke on her aunt's apartment floor, gasping. Her aunt knelt beside her, holding her face. "Yao, wake up!" Shen Yao grabbed her aunt's sleeve. "My mother went to the heart," Shen Lihua nodded, sobbing. "She saved me for a while." Shen Yao looked at her right hand. The 5 black marks had spread. Thin black veins now reached toward her wrist. "How long do I have?" Shen Lihua did not answer. Outside the apartment, someone knocked. Once, twice, 3 times. Both women went silent. A man's voice called softly from the hallway. "Miss Shen." Shen Yao recognized it immediately. Zhao Ming, the construction supervisor. He had disappeared below the tomb. Now his voice stood outside the door. "We found the way out," he said. "Open the door." Shen Lihua whispered, "Do not answer." The knock came again. "Miss Shen, the others are cold." Another voice joined him. Old Chen, then Liu Wei, then a young worker Shen Yao had seen only once. All of them stood outside the door, all of them dead or missing. None of them used her full name. They circled it. Miss Shen, Little Shen, Yao, survivor, witness, trying to make her answer. The cabinet blocking the door creaked. Shen Lihua tied the copper coins around the handle and whispered words Shen Yao did not understand. The knocking stopped. For one breath the apartment was quiet. Then a child giggled outside. Old tricks. The copper coins snapped from the handle and scattered across the floor. The cabinet slid away by itself. The lock clicked. Once, twice, 3 times. The door opened. Shen Lihua grabbed the notebook and shoved it into Shen Yao's hands. Kitchen window. They ran. Behind them the dead entered the apartment. Shen Yao did not look back. She heard wet footsteps, adult footsteps, many of them, then smaller bare feet. The child was inside. "Big sister," it called. "Why are you running from family?" Shen Yao and Shen Lihua climbed out the kitchen window onto the narrow exterior ledge. Night wind struck their faces. 4 floors below the alley was dark and wet. Neon signs flickered beyond the rooftops. Someone was cooking lamb skewers in the street, the smell of smoke and spice drifting upward as if the world had not just opened beneath them. Shen Yao edged along the ledge first. Her aunt followed. Inside the kitchen, the child's pale hand reached through the window. Shen Lihua screamed. The hand caught her wrist. 5 black fingerprints appeared instantly. Shen Yao lunged for her. Auntie Shen Lihua pushed the notebook harder against Shen Yao's chest. "Take it, I won't leave you. You have to find the heart." The window behind Shen Lihua darkened. Not like a room, like a tunnel. Hands reached from inside the apartment. Dry hands. Worker hands. Soil-covered hands. They wrapped around Shen Lihua's shoulders and waist. Shen Yao grabbed her aunt's arm. For 1 second she held her. Then Shen Lihua looked past Shen Yao towards something in the alley below. Her face changed. "Mei," she whispered. Shen Yao's mother had called her. Shen Yao knew it. Her aunt had answered. The hands pulled. Shen Lihua vanished through the kitchen window into darkness. The apartment behind her was no longer an apartment. It was a stone chamber. Then it snapped back. The child stood at the window, head tilted left. It raised one small hand and waved. Shen Yao ran. She climbed onto the neighbor's balcony, broke through. Hanging laundry, stumbled into a stranger's living room and kept running until she reached the stairwell. People shouted after her, but she did not stop. She ran through alleys across a market street, past shuttered shops and late-night food stalls, clutching Shen Wenqing's notebook under one arm. Only when she reached an underpass did she stop. Her phone vibrated. She wanted to throw it into the road. Instead, she looked. Unknown number 1, witness taken. 1 witness running. Shen Yao typed with shaking fingers. "What are you?" The reply came slowly, not like a message, like something carving itself through the screen. "We are the land before the city. We are the mouth under the wall. We are the hunger beneath the dead." Shen Yao typed, "What is the child?" The answer came after a long pause. "The child is the door." She stared at the words until they blurred. Then another message appeared. "The construction site is only the mouth. Find the heart before dawn." A map opened on the screen. It was not a modern city map. It was old, ancient. The city walls were drawn differently. The streets were missing. Rivers cut through places where highways now stood. There were 3 black circles. One marked the construction site. Beside it was a symbol of a coffin. Another marked a buried line beneath the old city wall. Beside it was a symbol of a child. The 3rd circle lay outside the city, near the foothills. Nanshan Earth God Temple. Beside it was an eye. Closed. Shen Yao opened her grandfather's notebook under the weak light of the underpass. Near the final pages she found the same 3 symbols. Coffin, child, eye. Under them Shen Wenqing had written, "The mouth is where the dead speak. The door is where the living look. The heart is where the eye sleeps. If the eye opens, the land will remember every name above it." Below that was one final warning. "Do not bring the marked one to the heart, unless they are willing to stay." Shen Yao's fingers went numb. The marked one. Her mother had brought her there once. Now the land wanted her back. A police siren wailed in the distance. For one foolish second, Shen Yao hoped it was help. Then Officer Han Rui stumbled down the stairs into the underpass. Her uniform jacket was gone. Blood ran from her forehead. Her marked hand was wrapped in gauze already stained black. She looked like she had fought her way through a nightmare and barely remained herself. Shen Yao ran to her. Officer Han Rui grabbed the wall to stay upright. "The station is gone." "What do you mean?" Everyone who answered the phones disappeared. Shen Yao covered her mouth. Han Rui pulled a small recorder from her pocket. "My uncle's message had another part. The recovery file was damaged. I heard it only after the hospital alarm." She pressed play. Static filled the underpass. Then Uncle Guo's frightened voice spoke through the speaker. "If anyone hears this, do not go back to the construction site. The pit is not the source. It is breathing through the wrong mouth. The old temple is the heart. The first marked woman closed it once. Her child is still connected. When the 4th rule appears, the 5th comes before dawn." Static. Then another voice in the recording. "A child. Tell her to come home." The recorder died. Han Rui looked at Shen Yao. The first marked woman. That was your mother, wasn't it? Shen Yao nodded. Han Rui's face tightened. Then it wants you. Before Shen Yao could answer, the underpass lights flickered. Both women froze. A woman's voice echoed from the tunnel entrance. My daughter. Shen Yao closed her eyes. Han Rui whispered, That's not your mother, I know. But knowing did not stop the pain. My daughter, the voice called again. I found your aunt. Shen Yao opened her eyes just enough to look at the ground. At the far end of the underpass, 2 bare feet appeared beneath a pale hospital gown. Wet soil dripped onto the concrete. Shen Mei stood there, or something wearing what was left of Shen Mei. Her face was hidden behind hanging hair. One hand covered her eyes, the other hand reached forward. Behind her stood Shen Lihua. Her aunt's face was pale and expressionless. Her right hand hung at her side, blackened to the wrist. Shen Yao almost broke. Han Rui stepped in front of her. Don't answer, Shen Mei whispered Yao. Not full, not complete, still dangerous. Shen Yao backed away. Her phone vibrated. The 5th rule will be given at dawn. Then before dawn find the heart, or the child will open both eyes. From behind Shen Mei's legs, the faceless child stepped into view. His head tilted left. His hands covered its face. Slowly it lowered one finger. The underpass shook. Dust rained from the ceiling. Somewhere beneath the city, something enormous inhaled. Han Rui grabbed Shen Yao's arm. Run! They ran. Behind them, Shen Mei screamed. Shen Lihua laughed in a voice that was not hers. The dead workers began calling from the dark. Miss Shen, little Shen, Yao. Witness, daughter, door. Shen Yao did not answer. She ran through the underpass, up the stairs, and into the night. The ancient map glowed on her phone. Nanshan Earth God Temple pulsed like a wound outside the city. Above the eastern horizon, the first pale line of dawn had begun to appear. Shen Yao had only a few hours left. Behind her, under the city of Xi'an, the Corpse-Nourishing Land breathed again. And at the edge of the sealed construction site where police tape snapped in the wind and floodlights flickered over the empty pit, the faceless child lowered one hand from its face. One eye opened in the dark. To be continued in Part 3, The Land Beneath the Living.